Welcome back to our channel on this beautiful Monday, a perfect day to dive deep into the explosive corporate drama unfolding in Genoa City. Let us immediately unravel the latest shockwaves, shaking the very foundations of Chancellor Industries. The corporate landscape of Genoa City is currently undergoing a seismic shift, driven by the relentless and often destructive ambition of Billy Abbott. For weeks, Billy has been operating under a cloud of manic obsession, digging through the forgotten archives and buried secrets of Chancellor Industries. Driven by a desperate need to prove his worth and avenge perceived slights from Jill Abbott, his relentless pursuit has finally culminated in a discovery that threatens to rewrite decades of corporate history. The sheer magnitude of this revelation has effectively paralyzed the current leadership, setting the stage for one of the most vicious legal battles the city has ever witnessed. The delicate balance of power that has governed the business world for years is now teetering on the edge of total collapse, all because one man refused to stop digging into a past that was meant to stay buried forever. Basking in the intoxicating glow of his monumental triumph, Billy feels an overwhelming surge of vindication. He has spent his entire life living in the shadows of his older brother and fighting off the dismissive judgments of his peers, but this newly unearthed historical document changes everything. To celebrate his victory, Billy extends a highly exclusive invitation to Audra Charles, the pragmatic and calculating corporate mercenary who has been subtly stoking the fires of his paranoia. Audra, always possessing an uncanny ability to align herself with the shifting tides of power, represents the perfect audience for Billy's grandest boast. Their celebration is less about genuine connection and more about a shared appreciation for ruthlessness, as Billy revels in the knowledge that he holds the ultimate trump card, capable of bringing Chancellor Industries to its knees. The foundation of Billy's newfound arrogance rests upon a dusty, long-forgotten contractual agreement between his father, John Abbott, and Philip Chancellor II. This historical artifact contains a devastating contingency clause regarding an unpaid debt, a clause that explicitly transfers total ownership of the Chancellor Empire to the Abbott heirs in the event of a default. Because the debt was never officially settled prior to Philip's untimely demise decades ago, Billy firmly believes he has uncovered the ultimate legal loophole. He views this document not merely as a piece of paper, but as a weapon of mass destruction, a divine right of succession that instantly invalidates the current executive structure and places the entire kingdom squarely in his hands. The historical weight of this discovery is staggering, threatening to erase the legacy of Catherine Chancellor and replace it entirely with the Abbott name. Meanwhile, the atmosphere inside the executive suites of Chancellor Winters is one of suffocating panic and profound disbelief. Lily Winters, already emotionally exhausted from the sudden departure of Nate Hastings to the medical field, finds herself trapped in a waking nightmare. Her recent, fragile reconciliation with Kane Ashby has been entirely overshadowed by the looming threat of Billy's corporate insurgency. Lily is a woman who has dedicated her life to maintaining the stability and integrity of her family's legacy, and the sudden realization that the ground beneath her feet is crumbling has pushed her to the absolute brink of her psychological endurance. She is forced to confront the horrifying reality that the company she has bled for might legally belong to a man who thrives on chaos. Beside her, Kane Ashby is experiencing a terrifying freefall of his own. Kane has spent years carefully cultivating his position of power, often relying on a complex web of manipulations and calculated alliances to survive the cutthroat environment of Genoa City. His recent, desperate attempt to control Billy by keeping him close has backfired with catastrophic precision. Kane recognizes that his failure to contain Billy's obsessive investigation has not only jeopardized his professional future, but has also completely shattered whatever remaining trust Lily had in him. The walls are rapidly closing in, and Kane's survival instincts are screaming for immediate aggressive retaliation before his entire world is dismantled piece by piece. The inevitable collision occurs when Billy swaggers into the Chancellor Winters' offices, radiating an aura of absolute, untouchable supremacy. He does not merely announce his discovery, he wields it like a blunt instrument, systematically dismantling the reality that Lily and Kane have worked so hard to protect. With a chilling calmness that contrasts sharply with his usual erratic behavior, Billy lays out the historical proof of the Abbott family's rightful ownership. He details the clauses, the signatures, and the undeniable legal precedent that he believes makes his claim airtight, effectively informing Lily and Kane that they are now trespassing in his kingdom. The sheer audacity of his presentation leaves the room suffocating under the weight of his arrogance. The immediate reaction from Lily and Kane is a desperate, defensive barrage of skepticism and outrage. Unable to process the magnitude of the threat, they immediately attempt to discredit the messenger. They vehemently accuse Billy of crossing the line from obsession into outright criminality, suggesting that his desperation for power has driven him to forge the historical documents. They argue that a man who has repeatedly sabotaged his own life and career cannot possibly be trusted to present authentic evidence of such a monumental nature. The room crackles with intense psychological warfare, as Lily and Kane attempt to project a confidence they do not truly feel, desperately trying to poke holes in a narrative that threatens to destroy them. However, Billy remains entirely unfazed by their accusations and insults. He stands resolute, completely indifferent to their desperate attempts to undermine his credibility. For Billy, their outrage is merely the predictable flailing of a defeated regime. He insists, with unshakable conviction, that every signature is authentic, every clause is legally binding, and the transfer of power is an inevitable reality. He views their skepticism not as a legitimate legal defense, but as a pathetic refusal to accept the truth, brushing off their hostility with a dismissive arrogance that only serves to infuriate them further. He is so blinded by his own perceived brilliance that he cannot see the massive legal storm gathering just beyond the horizon. As the initial shock begins to wear off, a cold, horrifying realization begins to wash over Lily and Kane. The sheer detail of Billy's presentation, combined with his unwavering confidence, forces them to confront the terrifying possibility that the documents might actually be genuine. The implication that the Abbott family legally owns Chancellor Industries is a paradigm-shifting revelation that threatens to wipe out decades of corporate history and personal wealth. This dawning comprehension shifts their strategy from simple denial to a desperate, coordinated plan for survival, recognizing that they are facing an existential threat that requires extreme, unprecedented measures to neutralize. Refusing to surrender their legacy without a brutal fight, Lily and Kane make the monumental decision to launch a massive, preemptive legal strike against Billy Abbott. They officially initiate a lawsuit aimed at crippling his offensive, accusing him of severe corporate sabotage and the malicious dissemination of highly sensitive, confidential information. Their legal strategy hinges on the argument that Billy, acting as a disgruntled and recently terminated employee, has intentionally manufactured a crisis to destabilize the company. They plan to hold him personally liable for the severe damage inflicted upon the company's reputation and the inevitable, catastrophic plummet of its stock value, aiming to bankrupt him before he can ever take the throne. The irony of the situation is profound, as Billy finds himself facing ruinous litigation for uncovering what he believes to be the absolute truth. Lily and Kane's lawsuit is not merely a defensive maneuver, it is a calculated attempt to bury Billy under an avalanche of legal injunctions and financial penalties before he can officially validate his claim in a court of law. They aim to paint him as a rogue agent, a dangerous liability whose reckless actions are actively destroying the livelihoods of countless employees and shareholders. The battle lines are drawn, transforming a historical dispute into a modern, cutthroat war of attrition that will inevitably drag the entire Abbott and Winters families into the mud. For Lily, this legal warfare represents a profound personal tragedy. She finds herself forced into an uncomfortable alliance with Kane, a man whose manipulative tendencies and hidden agendas she can no longer ignore. She is fighting tooth and nail to protect a corporate entity that has defined her life. Yet she must do so while constantly questioning the motives of her co-commander. Lily's internal conflict is agonizing. She is defending her home against a man she once considered family, utilizing ruthless tactics that clash with her inherent sense of integrity, all while standing beside a partner who may be hiding even darker secrets of his own that could further endanger the company. Kane's aggressive push for litigation is driven by motives that extend far beyond simply saving the company. He is acutely aware that Billy's relentless digging might unearth the other, deeply buried secrets he has been desperately trying to conceal, including his knowledge of Jill Abbott's failing health and the true nature of her hidden will. By launching this massive lawsuit, Kane hopes to force Billy onto the defensive, draining his resources and distracting him from uncovering the full extent of the deception. Kane is fighting for his professional life, utilizing the legal system as a shield to protect his own precarious position within the corporate hierarchy and keep his own betrayals hidden from Lily. Despite the looming threat of a multi-million-dollar lawsuit, Billy remains tragically blind to the collateral damage of his crusade. He is so consumed by his impending corporate coronation that he fails to recognize the personal devastation he has left in his wake. His absolute prioritization of power over love has already cost him Sally Spectra, who fled Genoa City to protect her unborn child from his toxic ambition. Yet, Billy views the lawsuit not as a warning sign, but as a badge of honor, proof that he has finally struck a lethal blow against the establishment that has always rejected him. He is entirely unbothered by the chaos he is causing, completely detached from the emotional and financial ruin he is inflicting upon the people who once trusted him. As the legal documents are filed, and the corporate war officially escalates into the courts, the tension in Genoa City reaches a boiling point. Lily and Kane are prepared to burn everything to the ground to stop Billy, while Billy stands ready to claim his kingdom regardless of the cost. But as the spotlight focuses entirely on this bitter legal dispute, a far more dangerous threat looms in the shadows. The historical documents Billy plans to submit as evidence contain intricate financial ties that may inadvertently expose Victor Newman's darkest secrets to the federal authorities. The question now is not just who will win Chancellor Industries, but whether Billy's relentless pursuit of the truth will trigger a catastrophic chain reaction, forcing a ruthless retaliation from the Newman Empire that none of them will survive.